Episode 213, Above Ground Podcast.
Gimme 3 steps.
Disclaimer. The hosts of this podcast, Timothy Patrick and Will Foley, are by no means medical professionals. However, having lived experience with mental illness themselves, they have gained useful perspectives on common mental health issues that some of us struggle to overcome on a daily basis. By sharing their stories, they hope to create connection. By creating connection, they hope to help you find your purpose. And through purpose, we can all begin to build the foundation for positive mental health. This is Above Ground Podcast.
Coming at you live with real conversations about mental health from the peer-spective, it's time for Above Ground Podcast. Now your hosts, TPP and Will Foley. Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome to
Above Ground Podcast.
Above Ground Podcast, because you can't serve below.
No, you cannot.
What's up, TPP? What's going on, man? Happy
happening?
Summertime. We're right in the throes of it, man. Wow. Summer, we're already past the 4th of July. Summer is cruising through the capital region on its way into August soon. This weekend, we got Upstate Punk Rock Flea Market coming up at Empire Live from 11 to 5 p.m. down on North Pearl Street. Don't forget, come out.
Sunday the 16th,
Sunday,
right?
yeah. Sunday, July 16th. We are at Upstate Punk Rock Flea Market. That's right. We will be there. We'll be there with all your fun vendors, just like always. So please come down and see us. Get out of the Saratoga nonsense and come down to Albany and get some culture in your life.
Alrighty then. On that note, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about self-love. Somehow we're talking about self-love again.
Again, well, it's
Self-love again.
it's the foundation of all.
Yeah, I guess it is. I never really thought about it that way, but yeah, as you say it that way, yeah.
Yeah, you can't really, as we've talked about building a house, you put a house on a shaky foundation, and you're going to take some chances, and you're going to end up with some cracked walls and
some really
uneven,
twisted stairs.
Yeah. So, you put that house on a nice slab of self-love that's authentic and real and true, then your house is going to stand much stronger and taller, probably.
I agree. And if you're building on a sand pit, you might want to put it up on some stakes to get it up off the ground a little bit and elevate it, get it above sea level a little bit. Or, just get it off the ground, because a sandy foundation's not that great either.
So what do you think are some steps? I
Yeah,
don't think we need to
we were chatting about that. I'm trying to figure out if there's, if self-love, if it's as simple as we can boil it down to 3 steps.
We probably can't. I mean,
maybe we can, though.
Maybe.
Because maybe at the end,
I think there's
so
a lot
simple.
of steps involved, but maybe like the more crucial ones, the initial ones the steps that you have to take, Some people may need extra steps,
I know you said mindfulness, and I said acceptance.
Yeah,
as
definitely.
the first things. But I want to ask you this, because you came to mindfulness quick, but I got to ask this. How do you know how to be mindful if you don't know you're being mindful? And how do you, like...
You got to be aware. You just have to, I guess if you're at the stage where you are thinking about self-love or talking about self-love...
Then you're aware of it.
Then you're aware of that. So,
right. That's the awareness.
You can be aware of something and not know what to do, not have the answers, but you can still be aware. I'm aware that self-love is huge. I may not have a huge amount of self-love, but I'm aware. I'm aware of both, But, it's like, I guess maybe like, if you're selling coffees, you don't have to drink coffee to be a coffee seller. You just have to.
True. That is true. And that's...
You just have to be mindful of it. And I think the more mindful you are, the more you'll kind of be able to see and open up your mind and look and go, oh, this is part of it and this is part of it.
I wonder if the funny thing is that you can't, I mean, you can think about the mind with the mind, but the mind can't think of itself.
Yeah.
So how do you, mindfulness? It's almost like this, it's almost like this esoteric.
Well, true mindfulness is without judgment. That's, you know, to as it is.
To just
like,
look at something.
That's a bottle of water. Like, boom, that's it. That's a bottle of water.
Or this is a conversation.
This is a conversation. Right.
And
it's
that's
when
it.
you
It's
start
not,
to go, hey, you know what? His tone is off. Maybe he's mad. He's saying this with extra emotion. Maybe he's this. And then you got 16 different things in your head
right.
that are influencing the conversation when
right.
it's just the conversation.
And half the time,
you're wrong.
half the time, right? Half the time you're wrong because it's your thoughts about what you're thinking. I'm thinking, and it's my thoughts about what I'm thinking. You're thinking.
Yeah.
Which was funny because we had this conversation on the ride up together. that would proved that point all the way around, which also proves the point which I've been told many times that we are a lot alike. The two of us, which is very true in a lot of things.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
and I think not only are we like in a lot of things, but I think even though we've obviously, you know, grew up differently and been different paths, but I think a lot of our experiences, you know, like we both have that strong abandonment thing going on.
oh, there's no doubt about that.
You know what I mean?
There's
we have
no doubt
those
about
strong, you know, different scars, whatever you want to call them. We have these things that we can relate with, I think, that are very similar.
For my acceptance part of the self-love, it's taken me all this time to accept what is, and I have finally accepted it. And we you know, it's like, you know, it's the last 6 months of my life has been challenging, and I've been really put to the test to see if I've really integrated all the things that I've learned.
I was just going to ask you how you...
I feel I've integrated a lot of the things I've learned because...
How did you get to the point where you can actually say it now? Like
this is the thing where true integration, I think, happens. You don't recognize it until you recognize it. It becomes part of you. But again, and I said this, and I'll be open and honest about this. I said this to you about our conversation a couple weeks ago. I didn't handle that correctly. We didn't handle that correctly. So there's still parts of me that I like again. And I think this is, and I'm wondering though, the more that we change, that those intrinsic things become more ingrained. And I wonder if some of those things are just such a part of our protectionist personalities that they don't allow for us to change them sometimes,
but
because
we can change them because, well, let's go back to the awareness. We can change them because we can not judge ourselves. You can't walk.
Well, right. You
I
can't.
mean, if you walk away and you say, you know what, I handled it wrong again. Damn it! And I blah blah blah, and you're boom, 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 boom. All those judgments are coming.
Well, right.
You know what I mean? Just go. You know what? Like own it, sit with it, and go. You know what? I'm gonna have some insight on this and own my part in this conversation and go, this, you know, I could have done this, and say it to yourself, you know, as you're talking to someone you care about, like with self-compassion, and be like, you know what, like instead of, oh, I fucking did this wrong, I fucked this up, you know what, hey, you know what, I could have said this a little bit better. And then at the end of this, after you kind of talk yourself through it and start the acceptance process, just go, I did the best that I could in the moment that we were in.
Right.
That's it.
But accepting those things.
Yeah.
And letting them go. It's the letting them go that I've gotten slightly better at.
That's good.
I'm getting slightly better at it. I shouldn't say, like, because that's what I've noticed.
Practice or?
It's practice. Because I got to tell you, man, I still hold on to stuff. And it's like, and I realize it's me.
Yourself.
It's me. It's not, it's the way I'm internalizing it. But it's also, it's playing into my thought bubbles that are okay. Because again, and this is, I didn't learn this. I mean, this is what divorce teaches you. Divorce will teach you that relationships take work, for one thing, but they also also take constant work, but they're also about growth.
Oh, yeah.
And when they stop growing, they just kind of, and that's part of it too. And I think that there's a little bit of that playing in me. like the growth part of it. And because I got to a certain level now, and now I've kind of, the ride stopped, and I've hit this certain, I've plateaued.
I've noticed that happen with myself though, and again, I try not to judge it or put anything on top of it. Is just go maybe like right now, like I view it as like a vacation. You know what? Like if I'm working too much, like sometimes you need that break, and maybe it's with, you know what I mean? It's the same thing. Like right now, like my growth, I can take a break. You can come back to it whenever you want. You know what I mean? You're the captain. So, and whatever achievement, whatever you have, whatever progress you've made up until the point that you say, hey, I'm going to take a break, doesn't go away. And then you just step right back in. But I think being able to do that in particular, but all this stuff, I think really there's an underlying theme of self-love.
Learning it.
Right.
Or at least you're learning that you have it.
Right.
Because we are all intrinsically worthy of love. You have to do nothing to be worthy of love. Repeat with me. You need to do nothing to be worthy of love. Okay? Now, it's how we operate within the relationships of our lives that we're in. However, the biggest factor of how we relate to others is how we relate to us. And if we do not relate to ourselves in a positive way, you cannot relate to others in a positive way all the time. And they will trigger those things, because I think what happens is when you can't be true to yourself all the time because you don't know how to, or you don't think you're worthy enough, and you become a pleaser, I think what happens is it turns off a certain part of you that is very hard to get to again at times, because you're so afraid to let that pleaser thing go, because that's how you've received your...
Right. But like you said, that stuff gets ingrained.
And that record, like again, unless you have to literally take that record off the turntable and smash it. Like that, you can't even... And I don't know if that'll do it, because I think that record just...
I think you just I think it's the repetitive motion of just going, hey, here's that record again.
Oh.
And then taking it off.
It's the recognition.
I think
recognition.
Because it's very hard to.
So mindfulness, recognition, acceptance. Mm-hmm. These are all big parts of self-love.
And what you were just talking about, like, reminded me. There was like, it was actually. It's funny because there was insight in what you were saying, but there was also inspiration in what you were saying. So if you can like kind of talk to yourself that way and like almost like give yourself some hope. Find some inspiration somewhere.
To tell you the truth,
that is
I have a little bit of that.
Okay.
And that's what's kept me going. I'm not doing enough on the path of my own growth right now. I've I've stagnated everywhere.
Instead of you're not doing enough, but maybe you're doing what you're able to do right now.
Right, and rewording it is another way to offer love to yourself.
Absolutely.
However, I did make a purchase recently, and not really a purchase. I kind of swapped out some stuff, and I got an electric guitar because I really wanted to just have something to play really loud in my apartment. And I realized why I bought it. And I bought it because of the connection that I have to Billy, to my younger self. And it's not about wanting to be it's not about wanting to play. It's not about wanting to be in a band. It's about
having
reconnecting to the part of me that separated itself.
Weird that you brought that up, because that was going to be one of my words as a step or part of this is connection.
Well, connection is one of the words that I chose also, because you have to have the world does not exist without connection. And it doesn't matter if it's an energy source like your lights, your family, or anything else. You have to connect. That is probably the biggest thing that we all have to learn. We're all connected. We are all connected. We may be on different rafts, but we're all in the same ocean, man. Remember that. So the thing is,
you can connect by playing Connect 4.
And you can connect by playing Connect 4 or checkers.
Or checkers.
Or chess.
Or chess.
If you're smart.
If you're smart. Yeah, so definitely I think awareness, acceptance, I think connection, definitely insight is going to help you. There's a lot. It's hard for me to like narrow these kind of down to, but I don't know.
If you give me 3 steps, give me 3 steps.
I was listening to Leonard Skinner, obviously, when I came up with the idea.
Give me 3 steps to self-love. Yeah. Well, you can find 3 steps to self-love. Let us know.
Yeah.
Because that'll be a quicker path. Our little hopscotch board is got a lot of singles and doubles going up of it. Like, there's a lot more steps, I think, to self-love.
Yeah, there is. There's definitely a lot more steps to it. But, I think maybe getting started with, like, some steps, 3 or 4 steps, and just, as you know, like, even with the healing process, just getting started is a big step. And then once you're in it, it definitely can become a little bit less obtuse, maybe.
Yeah, obtuse. That's a good word. So we're going to say that the first step is that the thought is the spark, right? You have to be mindful. But if you have the thought that, oh, maybe I have a self-love deficit, then you're aware of it. Now you can start to walk in the direction of love. Because that spark, that inspiration, that intuition, that song you heard on the way in, and you heard that lyric, and that lyric is just playing over in your head. That is the connection of the awareness. That's where the connection happens. See, it only happens to you in the way that you understand. So right. If you're a wrench turner and you're fixing an engine and you're putting that last piece together, all of a sudden you get this idea. That's because you're where you're supposed to be and you're able to connect. It's that connection to source. And I'm not here to get all gobbly glue on you, okay? Because I'm not.
Will's going to goo on you.
Yeah, I'm going to goo. Go.
He said goo.
And no, the new Beavis and Butthead is not as funny as I thought it was going to be.
I haven't seen it yet. So.
You got to come over and watch it then. I have it. It's Paramount. But it's not Paramount to see.
I got to go back to mindfulness again, because being aware, like you were talking and like being aware, like maybe I do have a self-love deficit. And I think also like maybe taking that a step further and kind of say, hey, this could be linked to these things that I do.
Let me ask you this. Is mindfulness a step, or is it actually just the whole entire process? Because to me, mindfulness, the way you describe things right now, mindfulness seems to be the process that all of these insights and things tend to lead to. I think
you need it with each step, but I think you need a base of awareness.
Do you think mindfulness is a process and it's a piece?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Because I think you need individually with each piece that you know what I mean? If I'm picking up this pen, I need to be mindful of this pen. And then mindful of putting it back down and being mindful of the surroundings of it.
But what are we being mindful about the pen, though? Like, what is mindful about the pen? It's a pen.
Right.
It's a writing utensil.
It's just a matter of, like I was saying, kind of like what we're adding onto it. What kind of our own thoughts and our own judgments are we placing on top of it? So if I feel that I'm aware that I have a self-love deficit, so then maybe I can take that awareness and stretch it and go, maybe that self-love deficit that I have is like the main thing that is producing these symptoms of A, B, and C. But I think you just have to be mindful of that. And like,
that's why when you say that, to me, mindful is the process. It's not a separate thing, because in order to be mindful, you have to think, then you have to process the idea that, oh, wait, that's that trigger. I got to fix it. That's why I'm wondering if mindfulness is really, because when you think about mindfulness, it just, like, to me, it just sounds like a process. That's why I'm curious to know how we break a process. Like, how do we know we're being mindful? And maybe it is asking that question. Maybe it is when that insight hits you, it's asking that question. Oh, wait, I just had that thought. Why did I have that thought? What triggered that thought?
I don't know. I think being like super mindful might be able to lead you to an answer. Yeah,
maybe. I'm just because it just dawned on me, because I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, yeah, like mindfulness is like this whole like big bubble in a way, as much as it is a piece of it. It's like, so the
mindfulness
whole
is not only
the
playhouse that we go in, but mindfulness is a ride in the playhouse.
Yes. Yeah, it's the entire amusement park. It's not a ride in an amusement park. It's the entire amusement park. To me. That's what it seems like to me. Because when we start to break it down like this, because you're like, you got to be mindful. But then I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, but how do I, like, what is mindful? Like, is it, because am I thinking, like, that thought that I just had, like, we were just talking about, like, how, like, certain things like get triggered, but it's not because of the current situation you're in. It's probably something that happened 30 years ago, but you don't quite know what it is. But it, all of a sudden you get that thought, and then so you have to stop and then think, oh wait, it's that thought again.
Right.
So
here's one. Let's just so we can.
It almost sounds like a cone, like a Japanese cone in a way. Where it's like not supposed to really,
right?
It's almost, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. Now I'm like, I don't want to think too much on it. So
I know, I can see the wheels turning. You're like, wait, dude, you just.
So forgiveness, I think, is one that comes to mind for me.
That's a huge step,
because it's also like, not only can I forgive you, but it's also I can forgive me as well.
Well, and
forgiving yourself for saying, that's what I mean. If I can learn to go, hey, you know what, like look at the situation and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to forgive this person for this because, maybe because I want to, or maybe because I feel like it's going to help me. And then from that, I can forgive me for, not knowing better in the moment and doing the best I can, but sometimes I might beat myself up. So all I have to do is just say, hey, you know what? I forgive myself for what happened, if I made a mistake or whatever, if I didn't accomplish something the way I wanted, but I tried, I gave it my all, I gave my best in that moment. So that's what I was able to do. And like, that's like self-forgiveness. So you're like allowing yourself like some grace, I guess you could say. Which I think, continuous, it's like a gratitude thing. It's like that, it just compounds.
Oh, yeah, it does. But forgiveness is a difficult thing, especially because but it's super integral. Like, you need to forgive. You have to forgive yourself, and you have to forgive everybody involved in the stories that you're telling yourself. Because it's really about the stories you're telling yourself that create all the suffering. And again, there are bad things that happen, but it's the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves of why they happened and things like that create the suffering. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, they definitely create the suffering, but sometimes they're worse than the actual thing.
Oh, they certainly can be, depending on what it is. Yeah. So we've got awareness, we've got insight, we've got
forgiveness,
we've got forgiveness, we've got connection. Like,
you said acceptance already.
Acceptance, awareness.
Yeah. Forgiveness, insight.
What about belief?
Sure. That would be like, for me, that would fall into the inspiration part of it. But yeah, you can say belief for sure.
But when do we know we believe it?
I think everybody's different. I think it, kind of what you were saying earlier is like maybe it just happens and then you go, whoa, like you realize you catch yourself and go, hey, that doesn't really happen like that often, or even just say to yourself, like, I expected something a little different and that happened. So, but, it's like catching yourself, I guess.
Recognition.
Yeah, I guess when you maybe that's
when you recognize it.
I think so. Now that you say
recognition is probably when you recognize it.
Yeah,
maybe you've,
or even sometimes if you have a partner or a close friend or something like that, that someone that you talk to frequently that knows you well, that maybe they can even say, hey, I noticed that, and then. Even then you may not fully recognize it, but at least it was like thrown into the mix and you're like, and think about it. And then maybe, it just pops up and then you're like, oh, there it is. So yeah, there's recognition.
Then, so at the end of the day, where does all this end up? Like, where does the process... Where do we kind of say, okay, we've got the recognition now. Oh, whoa, I might love myself a little more today. I didn't react the way I normally did. Or I chose a different way to go because I wanted to stop off to get something that I wanted. Or I chose to do this for this person because they did something for me. So after that's over and we've kind of gotten through it, and maybe we get some time and we're like, yeah, look at me, I'm styling. What's the next thing do we do?
Well,
is it more connection? Is that where the connection comes in?
I think connection, but maybe connection, but I don't know if I have a word, but I'll just explain it the way I'm seeing it is, here's the thing, like we're diligent, we do the work, and we're disciplined. We continue to do the work. But doing the work isn't magic. It's not going to like snap one day and just like, the thing is this is life. And the reality is you're going to encounter hurdles. You're going to encounter assholes in the world that are going to try and knock you down, or that are going to do something that you don't like, or point something out that you did that maybe they feel like is wrong or dumb or whatever the slew of words is that might knock you down. So I think maybe awareness comes back into play and just realize that like you said earlier, is that I'm worthy no matter what. Like I don't need to have a list of accomplishments. I don't need to drive an expensive car. I'm worthy, without those things. So if I try to do something and I do something, and then someone else comes along and says, oh, well, that sucks, or, that's not that good, or you could do better, you just have to, I think self-love is also self-aware and realizing like, hey, you know what? Maybe you're right, or not even take those outside sources into your brain. Like, don't listen to them. But if you do listen to them, just go, hey, you know what? You're right. Thanks for the tip. And then just throw it in your pocket for a rainy day if you need to, or throw it on the side of the ground. I don't know. But you have to know yourself. You have to be okay with yourself. Because, yes, self-love, once you probably get to a certain point, that'll be like the armor against that bullshit. But building it up, you're going to encounter it. Like I said, this is real life. You're going to encounter hurdles and mountains that you have to climb. So it's more or less like thinking to yourself like, hey, you know what? I got this. And even if I stumble, or even if I attempt to draw a picture and it comes out shitty, or somebody doesn't like it, somebody laughs at it, it's not going to take away the fact that I did it, that I put myself out there and I put pen to paper or whatever and did something. Like you just can't take that away. You know what I mean? Like I think David Goggins said that no one that makes fun of you or puts you down is doing better than you. It's
No,
always somebody that,
absolutely not. They're doing far worse.
yeah,
Yeah, because again, like Evel Knievel said, in Theodore Roosevelt's words, man, those who stand on the outside and don't ever know defeat know nothing, man.
Right.
And that's if you're not in the arena,
Right.
shut the fuck up.
Right.
And that's all I say.
Right, and that's
And I say it to anybody, shut the fuck up. If you
Right.
ain't in the arena, then get in the arena.
and that's you need a mantra, something like that, something that Will said, that it can kind of ground you and bring you back. Like you can get caught up in the jungle, and again, these hurdles can trip you up. But if you get back up and just go, hey, you know what? I'm in the fucking arena. Where are you at? And they're not in there, so then you just keep going. You do what you do. Because at the end of the day, you have to be happy with you. That's why I think the self-compassion is a big part of it too, because you have to be able to say, hey, you know what? I may not have achieved my goal today, or I may not have climbed the mountain, but I gave it 100% of what I had today. I gave it my best shot. I did what I could, and I'm okay with that. Because you're going to bed with you. It's your head. You have to be okay with it. It doesn't matter what somebody else says. It doesn't matter how many likes you get on Instagram. It's just a matter of, are you okay with this?
Yeah, and when you're not okay with it, it's time to change it. Because that's really what it is.
Yeah, just look it up. Maybe you need to dissect it or whatever and go, why am I not okay with this?
That's that aha moment. That's the spark to start all this over again.
Right.
So I was writing this as you were talking. I went from awareness to self-awareness. It starts with awareness and ends as self-awareness.
Okay.
Because you have the awareness that something's off, but then at the end, if you've integrated some of this and you get to that point where you recognize, whoa, that didn't shake me, you've developed some real self-awareness.
And that's like what you said. That's what, you need that aspect of, hey, you know what, there's a storm coming, and I'm just going to walk through it and see what happens, and because I know myself, and I've been through worse storms, and I'm pretty sure that this storm's not going to really do much to me.
I have a motto, and I've been using this motto for quite a while. I don't say it to anybody, but I'm going to say it to everybody because it'll be the first time.
Whip it out, Will.
It's going to get hard.
There you go.
That is my motto.
It's going to get hard. That's cool, actually.
Yeah.
I like that, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to get hard.
It's going to get hard, man, because things are going to get hard. And things will always be soft, and then they'll get hard again. And I learned this about myself, too. When I'm physically soft, I'm emotionally hard. And when I'm physically hard, I'm emotionally soft. And I'm definitely not emotionally soft right now.
Do you think that you want to wear somewhere that you would like to be? Like a balance? Or
I need to start moving. I need to start moving, like physically moving around.
And grooving?
Yeah, moving and grooving. Like I need to put some, and hopefully this yoga class that I just started with Mark, who is going to be on the podcast in another couple of weeks or next week.
Mark
the Yogi, Marc Salvi. Yeah, big shout out, man.
Handstand master.
I do not want to talk about this yoga class yet because, well, it's yoga and it's hard. Yoga's hard, man.
This is going to get hard.
It's going to get hard. That's right. So, but
that's a good mantra, though. That I like to go back to that because I think that might be a step. Get a mantra for yourself, man.
Yeah,
whatever
man,
it is.
You got to have a war cry.
Get a war cry.
It's about I really
let me see your war face.
That's right. I've been it's funny that you mentioned war face because I've been watching tons of stuff about Norwegian black metal. I've been watching all these documentaries lately on YouTube because unfortunately I am so distracted and so just not wanting to move off the couch that I find myself engrossed in church burnings and
oh boy
and stuff. And
the episode is just taking a turn.
However, it's because, like, when you look at those guys, the corpse paint is their war paint, man. And we need, again, like people talk about tribes and stuff, but when you really look at, like, native stuff, like, they all had their,
You're right.
They all had their own war cries. They had their own prayers. They had their own things.
It was like something
and we
that
need
was,
those, right. We need those for ourselves. We need those traditions for ourselves. However, if you don't have self-love, you may not have the boundaries to hold those. Because I think that that's a big part of this for me also. The boundary to hold yourself accountable because you're worthy enough to do the thing you said you were going to do, rather than just not.
Right. And I think by taking small steps and doing small risks, it's gonna further develop that. You know, that whole, like, you know, because I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like it will help.
I think it would help.
Okay.
I definitely think it helps. I definitely think it's a step in the right. It's definitely a step in the right direction, as far as, like, developing.
And I think one thing too is to, I mean, this goes with everything, but it just came to mind with this is to really try and live in the now. Like, again, you're not your last mistake. You know, you're gonna hold on to these things, and it's going to interfere with the process. You know, you're always going to be thinking of that mistake, or I should have done this better. And it's like, at some point, yeah, you want to use them for insights that you can revamp and see what you can do better next time. You know, save that old photo of your war paint, and then maybe now you can, like, revamp it and, like, update it. But don't go back to it, especially if it didn't work. You know what I mean? Don't focus on that stuff. Just focus on the here and now and the war paint that you're putting on.
You know, I like the idea that I do think that there's the value in the failure, though, and nothing is ever a failure. It's when I started to change my attitude toward that that I noticed the change in me. Yeah. Was when I started to look at things as not failures. Right. They were learning experiences. Yeah. They were experiences that, unfortunately, I didn't realize how time had this thing on me where you spend so many years doing the same thing, and then you don't recognize when things have completed, or you don't recognize when they've turned, or you don't recognize that there's a turn that you should make because you don't know where to go.
Do you think maybe some people avoid it, or they?
Well, I think we avoid it because, again, nobody likes change. We all talk about change, and we all want change, but
we don't want what comes with change.
We don't want what comes with change because change is scary. And again, like, you don't know what's on the other side of that change. Right. And yes, it could be the most beneficial thing to you ever, and it could become everything you ever wanted it to be and fulfill all the holes that you think you have.
And even if it is beneficial and fill holes, it's still going to get hard.
It's still going to get hard.
And I think even if it's beneficial and it's something that you want, you still may end up losing something that you thought you wanted. That still may be a valid grief moment, you know? Like, just because you want this something new and you're like, I'm moving forward, this is what I want. But then usually I found, like, in order to gain something, you have to lose something. So there's something out there and you're going to go, oh, shit. You know, but maybe that's part of the whole growth and healing and shedding skin is making room for the new things that you want in your life.
You got to make room because the shelf is only so big. But everything has a shelf life except for self-love. Ooh. And it's true. Everything has a shelf life. Every relationship, every business, every career, every life, every day, every moment.
Everything has a shelf life?
Except for self-love, man. That just came to me when you were talking. I was just like, whoa.
It's very fucking true.
That everything has a shelf life.
You know it's true because I even swore, like, to make sure.
I know, right?
That
You
people
put the
knew
exclamation on that, man.
Damn.
Drop the mic. Boom.
I can't really say anything more after that. That's
But it just, like, again, like, it wouldn't have come if we weren't having this conversation.
Right.
Because that's the thing about these conversations.
So you have to be willing and open to these things, too.
Yeah, I think you have to have to be open. You do. And again, fear is a difficult sea to navigate, man. And it can really throw you overboard. It can capsize your vessel, and it does.
Create some big waves and resistance for you, for sure.
Yeah. So getting over your fear is part of self-love.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I
agree.
Getting over your fear is part of self-love.
So, as a self-love activity, I want to see all you at Empire Live on Sunday.
Sunday.
Saratoga. You can go to Saratoga the rest of the year. Come to Albany. Come check out some of the coolest things for sale ever. Dark, macabre, just really cool
Empire
stuff.
Live,
Empire
Sunday.
Live, Pearl Street, 11 to 5, Upstate, Punk Rock, Flea Market. I don't know what number we're at. Number 6, number 7. I don't know.
I
can't remember.
It don't matter. Just get there because it's always fun.
That's right.
So until next week,
get well.
Be safe.
Stay
above. Thank you for giving us a listen. New episodes every Wednesday. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, you can share, rate, review, and even subscribe so you'll never miss an episode. Other ways to support the show, follow us on social media, share the content, share our episodes. You can also buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/abovegroundpod. For further concerns, show ideas, or just to say hi, you can email us at abovegroundpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, thank you for listening and supporting mental health. Keep the conversation going and stay above.